First of all, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time to take this interview with me. And I want to say, first of all, extend commiserations on your loss today for the series.
Thank you.
Yeah, just sort of to start the interview, I wanted to start by sort of getting your initial thoughts and feelings just on how you guys felt, I guess, when you saw the sort of group draw that you will be facing Gen.G first.
Definitely a hard group. Wasn't happy about the group. Would have preferred a different group,
Yeah.
of course. But I don't think we are strangers to getting put in tough spots and having hard games. It's been kind of like a meme narrative, right? Like hardest road, but it's not something we don't. We talk about it too, and we joke about it too. Of like, oh, hardest road, like
Yeah.
done there, done that. We're used to it. So uh, we had a pretty good attitude about just like going right into okay, now how are we going to try to win it? Like,
Hmm.
what's our mindset going to be, and going in the game and just make the best of it. That the cards were dealt.
Absolutely. I mean, I think most teams wouldn't be happy to have to face the Shanghai winner on your opening match in Seoul, but you guys won Madrid, so and you guys beat Gen.G to do it as well. So in some ways, was this sort of like round two sort of feeling for you guys, where you guys get to prove yourself pretty early on?
Yeah, I mean, we won Madrid right against Gen.G, and
Hmm.
then we have had some hard. We've had a hard second half of our season.
Hmm.
So going up against a team that we know is beatable because we beat them before,
Yeah.
it was really easy to like sort of tap into that logic, that narrative, that energy of hey, we beat these guys before.
Hmm.
Let's look at what we did, like not strategically, but like in terms of the team energy and everything else. Like,
Yeah.
look, we could do that on a grand final stage. Like we could do it again right here.
Yeah.
And then I knew, I didn't talk about this much with the team, but I knew if we were to beat them, like
Hmm.
get the hardest game out of the way. Like I think the confidence high, we would probably cruise pretty far in. Not to say we're doomed now, but
Hmm.
we were just kind of excited for the challenge and felt like if we beat them, we would get a lot of benefit out of it. We would probably be in a very good spot
Oh, for
mentally for
sure.
the rest of our games.
I think the narrative would be completely different if you guys had, come out of the gate swinging and you guys had taken down Gen.G. Just sort of the thoughts and feelings, I guess, from a coach's point of view. Like, how do you think the series went? Where do you think the momentum sort of stopped being in guys' favor? Just yeah.
Yeah, I think it went pretty badly. Not happy with the series at all, of course.
Hmm.
Not walking away feeling like it was really close, and we came to the match doing what we planned to do.
Yeah.
So Haven attack. I think we were a bit nervous at the start, but we had a pretty good energy about us.
Hmm.
And then we slipped up a couple clutches, little unfortunate things happening here and there.
Yeah.
And I feel like the pressure of being on the stage, it sort of made us respond to that by playing a bit more scared.
Hmm.
And then we'll have to look back at it. But I think we strayed away from what was exploiting their comp a bit toward the end of the half
Hmm.
and the way they play. And then defense, it's tough. It's tough. When you come in with a plan, you make small mistakes that cause the plan to not go well,
Yeah.
then it's a really hard position to put the team in of do you switch up what you're doing
Hmm.
or do you keep doing what you're doing and fix the small mistakes?
Yeah.
That's always there's no perfect answer.
Hmm.
And I think we just had a hard time with that, right? We made small micro mistakes and got caught out by some lurks. And then we were just put in a tough spot. We just didn't have rounds to work with. And yeah, it just kind of spun out for Haven.
As
And then Ascent, I
right.
think, was just sorry, go ahead.
No, no, you go on first.
Um, Ascent, we just really weren't talking enough and flowing enough on defense.
Hmm.
Just a lot of work we need to do in keeping the team play up. I
Yeah.
think that's something we've had a hard time with throughout the year. On defense, it feels like the micro comms and micro teamwork and proactivity,
Hmm.
for some reason, is just a lot harder for us to keep up, and it ends up costing us a lot of rounds.
I'd like to go back to that point, but first I'd like to ask you on something you touched on earlier, which is what you say, like, sometimes, the best laid plans, they fall by the side. As a coach, how do you sort of approach that? What's your personal philosophy in terms of, what can you do? What would you like to do during these points in the series?
Um, yeah, it's a it's a tough one. It's something I've had to think about and work on and reflect on throughout the year.
Hmm.
Um, think you just have to realize where your team is at. If you think you're doing the right, if I think we're doing the right plan,
Yeah.
but we're making mistakes and they're fixable, then I think we sound like we're in a really good spot.
Yeah.
I can call a timeout and say, hey, let's just fix these mistakes and just keep doing the plan, right, guys?
Mhm.
Like we're good. But there's definitely been times in the past certain games. One that comes to mind is like EG defense, where I felt like we were making mistakes with a plan.
Mhm.
And why are we making the mistakes? Right? Is it just that we're making them and it's fixable, or is it because we're frustrated?
Yeah.
We're in a tough spot. We don't need to win a lot more rounds to win the game.
Mhm.
You just got to get to the bottom of it. So if it's just mistakes that are fixable, great. But if they're happening because of a larger thing, we're tilted, we're not flowing,
Yeah.
the energy's dead, then you need to shift gears and focus on that. And sometimes that involves changing the way you're playing in the game too, and
Um,
moving away from a strategy just to get some fresh air in.
would you consider the way today went? Would you consider that more the former or the latter in terms of how you categorize the two different type of issues?
Say Haven, we were fine energetically, and just making small mistakes and rounds and in a spot where I would feel good saying, hey, just keep going and keep doing this, and we're gonna clean it back up.
Yeah.
And think we could have done that even more,
Mhm.
stayed more on track. For Ascent, I would say the latter, that the energy was pretty rough on defense. People were getting a little bit quiet.
Mhm.
You know, I think sometimes we have rounds where we're not talking enough, and it
Yeah.
makes us start to lose the game, lose control over the game, and then sometimes I see the players have a response to that of talking even less, and
Yeah.
that's just games are going to spiral when that happens. People have seen Sentinels games spiral for that reason.
Yeah.
That is something we have no buffer anymore. We need to fix
Mhm.
for future matches. I mean, we need to be coming in, working together. The team play needs to be consistently there
Yeah.
on any round of any half. And when it falters, we need to immediately catch it and respond by increasing it. And that's just something we're going to have to get. That's the biggest takeaway for the day for me.
Okay. Touching on that as well, and going back to what you talked about previously, just what's your next step going to be? Like, how are you going to approach the next game, whether it's against Heretics or FPX?
I mean, the biggest thing is focus on ourselves. So obviously, could we have won or lost this game?
Hmm.
We could do either, but we definitely lost to ourselves today with a scoreline like that and the problems I was seeing and hearing. And so we've got a lot of time before we play Heretics or FPX. I think it's we play on the 8th, so we have like 7 days. Definitely going to spend a lot of time focusing on ourselves.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll get to scrims, we'll workshop strategy, but we got a lot of time to work on a lot of maps before this, and we only showed 2 maps right there.
Yeah.
A lot of what I hope to do is just things like team meetings and look back at the VOD, listen to the comms, watch the whole thing, and just talk as a team about our issues at large and really let the players get involved in talking about not only agreeing on what the problem is, but I want everyone to be able to problem solve and come to solutions together on what we can do to make sure we show up on stage and don't have these issues. So spend a lot of time talking about that and figuring that out, and then a lot of time making sure that it's different for the second match.
Yeah.
Probably means some scrim days and some, probably one rest day in there to go out and do some team bonding in Korea.
Hmm. Um, that's fantastic to hear. I wanted to ask this question as well, but Pedro kind of beat me to it in the conference, which was I wanted to ask about the deadlock composition that you guys are running on Ascent. You spoke on
Mhm.
how I wanted to ask you guys on what persuaded you guys that you wanted to follow the other teams and follow it, but you already answered that. So instead, I'll ask you: do you personally see that this composition is something that works? Because I know some compositions just don't work inherently for certain teams, just because doesn't what works on one team doesn't necessarily work for another.
Yeah, it's definitely a good question, right? Like, I believe the comp is incredibly strong, and I know that teams are winning very, very consistently with it against the meta comp.
Hmm.
But at the same time, um, does it stylistically fit us?
Yeah.
We have scrimmed a lot with any comp that anyone has ever seen us show up to a match with pretty much this year. So we felt like we practice a lot. We can judge how we do in practice, then we can walk away from a match
Yeah.
and think, hey, like let's fix up these issues. But do we have certain issues or certain weaknesses in matches that the comp or the game plan emphasizes? That's a different question, right? Like
Yeah.
which players are on certain roles. Like you can definitely band-aid certain issues a team has depending on who's on what role and where they are positionally
Hmm.
on certain halves. So that's something I'd really like to get the players insight on, and definitely something we will think about and discuss moving forward. It's a good point that what's good on paper doesn't necessarily match what works for a team on stage,
Thank
and
you.
you need to separate the team you are in practice from the team you are on stage.
That is the difference because you guys don't really have that much time to sort of experiment as well. So it's quite a tricky tightrope, I guess, to walk across.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is.
Final question I just want to ask, going forward into the rest of Seoul, what can we sort of expect from Sentinels? Where you guys is benchmark at, like, coming into this tournament, where you guys is head at?
Yeah. I believe and I hope and I want people to expect us to have more energy
Hmm.
coming into not coming into games, but in the middle of games. I want us to show our resolve. I want us to stay talking. I want us to just keep all very visibly showing that we're hungry and we want to win and that we're going to work together
Yeah.
in order to try to do that. And that's all that matters to me. So not going to set any expectations in terms of results. Just going to set an expectation that we show up because there's definitely been a few games in a row where it's fair to say we haven't shown up.
Okay. I look forward to, if I get a chance to speak to you, I look forward to that. I also
Likewise.
look forward to watching you play in your next series. Thank you very much for your time, Kaplan. As we close out, is there anything, perhaps any final words you want to say? Anything that we didn't cover, perhaps?
No,
All right. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.